Wonderful.
All right. And we are live, Grace. We are live.
Okay.
Well, good
Okay.
afternoon. Good afternoon, wherever you are. And welcome to Tuesday Talks at 3. We are live or on top of the hour, and I am so happy to be here. This is Tuesday Talks at 3, a platform where women help build one another. They help one another on this journey of this wheel of life. My name is Lucy Macridis, and I am an expert in helping women get unstuck and onto their true potential through unlocking limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs, these are the things that hold us back from
Mm.
getting to our true potential. So contact me for sessions on what these are, what they could be, identifying them. I am a certified life coach. I am a certified online facilitator. That is why I'm here today with my guest Grace. And I do hope that we will be able to share with you information that you can take away and apply immediately. I'm a mentor. I'm a mentor also. So thank you so much for gracing this tune in today, this broadcast. It is the month of love, and today we are talking about self love. Grace is right there. Grace, wave at everybody. And
Hello.
yeah. Well, let's see if we've got anybody online right now because we are just on the hour. And I will keep on checking my Facebook Live to see who is there with us. So just looking at it, I can see we've got 3 people already here live. So yes, Grace, you are
Mm.
waving at somebody.
Yes.
We've got three
Yeah.
people here who are live with us. Thank you so much for joining us. So as we continue just introducing what we're doing here, LMC
Yes.
Consultancy, that is a company that I run, and I'm a life coach, as I have said. In January, we ran 2 specific programs, which were a huge success. The first one was about clarity. You know, we jump into the year, new beginnings, new stuff. Everybody has got a New Year's resolution, but then you don't identify it. And when you don't identify it, then throughout the year, you will just lose track. In fact, not throughout the year. By the time February comes, you're like, what was it I said I was going to do? So the Clarity program was helping individuals just identify, plan, and execute or implement. The other one that we did was Awakening Self. Awakening Self, as you hear it say, is you awakening to yourself. You know, just knowing who you are, your core values, what's important in your life, so that you stay on course. Many a time we tend to just concentrate on one aspect of our lives. And for those who are in career life, that's what they concentrate on. And unfortunately, for those who are at home and they're home givers and they take care of people at home, they tend to feel less of themselves because the people who shout out the most are the guys in career. But hey, that's what we were going through in Awakening Self, so that you do understand the different aspects that you have in your life that make you. Well, I am in the hospitality industry, so definitely customer service is my kind of thing. So I love to be able to speak with people and share my experiences. And we are loving the fact that this is the month of love. And with the month of love, you know, it has been labeled the month of love. Unfortunately, it has been so commercialized to the point that it is assumed or perceived that it's the only time that love can be expressed, especially by couples, as if these 28 days, and specifically the 14th of February, is the magic day. Well, at LMC Consultancy, we believe that love is to be expressed 24/7, 365 days. And we further believe that we must start with self love, Grace. We must start with
Yes.
self love. Yeah. And I'm happy that you're
Absolutely.
here. I'm happy that you're
Absolutely.
here. I'm happy that you're here, Grace, because you're going to take us through it. Yeah. So, here, like I have said, to
Amen.
show us ways is Grace Kariuki. She's a certified
Mm.
marriage and family therapist and wellness counselor. So, we have the best person today to take us
Mm.
through self love. And just to
Mm.
give you even more confidence, she's been in practice for 13 years and she has held, listen to this, just get a hold of this. She has held over 20,000 therapy and counseling sessions during that period. So she must know something about self-love. Huh? She's an accredited member of the Kenya Counseling and Psychological Association. So
Yeah.
important that we have the counseling aspect here because we need it. And Grace, during this time of COVID, it is my belief that we need this kind of session more than ever. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on board. And I'm looking forward to being able to speak and empower people. Yes, COVID-19 has thrown us into some stuff that we've never experienced before. And I will
Exactly.
tell you, one of the things that has happened to us is we have been forced to be introspective and to
Yes.
reflect on who we are and what we are about. And so many of us have gotten into a crisis because now you have too much time on your hands to try to figure out life. And many of us who are in the process of our lives, we were on autopilot. And suddenly
Yes.
COVID came, and we had to be mindful, and we had to be present, and we had to deal with the crisis. So it's an opportunity. It has been an opportunity for us to get to know who are we, what are we about, and how do we experience life, and how do people around us experience us. So very, very important for us to take this opportunity in 2021 to continue this conversation of self-discovery.
Wow, thank you so much. I love the fact that you're talking about it's been a time of introspection,
Yes.
all that time of, can you imagine the single person, somebody who lives on their own, and
Yeah.
for at least the first 3 months, it was only themselves in that
I
space.
know.
You know that,
Yeah.
that could do a lot of harm to you if you don't know how to go in there and work with that space. It could do a lot of
Yes.
harm to you. Yet if you know the tools to apply, you will then, just like you're saying,
Mm.
Grace, know who you are and how to work around it. The fact that you've also talked about being autopilot, oh, we were all on autopilot. In fact, just this morning,
Right.
Grace, just this morning, I was thinking about it. I was an 8 to 5 person. Just a
Mm-hmm.
little time just before COVID. I was
Yes.
typically 8 to 5, and so my
Right.
morning routine was always the same. I could do it with my eyes closed, but for some
Closed.
strange reason,
Yes.
this morning, it's been almost a year since that kind of habit. So this morning, I don't know why it came back this morning. I was brushing my teeth and
Uh-huh.
I thought to myself, oh, okay, this is weird. I actually have a new regime. It hit me this
Mm-hmm.
morning that my
Yes.
life had totally changed, and I hadn't
Yes.
seen it changing in the small, mundane things like brushing my teeth
Yes.
when the sun was out. You see, because that
Uh-huh.
time I was brushing my teeth when it was still dark because I was getting ready
Right.
for 8 to 5 day. And for a moment
Mm-hmm.
there, I just allowed myself to be
Yes.
awash with change because
Yes.
change is constant and it had already happened to me. And as it was happening,
Right.
I was not even aware it was happening. I was busy concentrating on so many other things. So yes, I have been on autopilot for those years,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
now my life is by intention, and I love the conviction that you have that we can all live
Mm.
by design. This tagline
Absolutely.
this tagline
Mm.
that you use. And for
Yes.
those of you who are tuning in, Grace, and as I mentioned, she's a certified marriage and family therapist and wellness
Yes.
counselor. Grace actually
Uh-huh.
uses this tagline in both her practice and her personal life. And it's so
Right.
important that you are able to define yourself in this way, Grace. So I am looking forward to hearing more.
Yes.
Well, let's see who
Right.
has tuned in. I can see, oh, yes, it's quite a few ladies who have tuned in and who already are putting thumbs up for us. We've got Kavi. Oh, great to see you back, Kavi. Great to see you back, Patty. We have missed you guys. Jane, we thank you. for always tuning in, and you've got our back. Thank you so much. Linda, good to see you here today. It's really good to see you having tuned in. And Nancy also. Nancy is also one of the people who is always tuning in to support us. And all of those then who are quiet and silent and passive watchers, we do hope that today's message will motivate you and encourage you to love, to just love. So please feel free to share with
Yes.
us on the chat. Feel free to share with us what it is that's going through your mind as to what self-love is. Ask Grace any question that you want, and she will be able to answer you.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Grace, on matter self-love.
Yes.
Roseanne has just joined us. Karibu sana, Roseanne. Karibu sana, Roseanne. So I'm going to jump right into it, Grace. You know, you talked about
Yes.
the introspect, you know, that introspection time
Right.
and knowing who you are. Now, I know for a fact
Right.
that when I'm talking about myself, a lot of factors come into play. I am
Yes.
talking about my mental state. I am talking about my talents. I am talking about my physical appearance. And a lot of things that
Right.
come into play will be my perceptions of what I think of myself and what
Yes.
other people think of me when they see me. And a lot of
Yes.
seeking of validation could also
Uh-huh.
come into play, and expectations of my environment. If I give you an example, the
Yeah.
young girls of today don't necessarily think the same way I did 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I was coming out of college and I had my papers with me. Now I knew the next thing was to get a family. So I needed to get a husband, get children, build my career. That's what the environment expected of me. And therefore,
Right.
I used that trajectory to kind of build around my life. And that is who I became. That was who I was. But was that
Yes.
really me on the inside? Was it really me? Or
Right.
was I living somebody else's life, somebody else's
Yes.
objectives? And while we're on
Uh-huh.
that
Uh-huh.
subject, if my mother was listening in right now, she would want to hit me over the head because I always said that she's the one who wanted me to go to hotel school. I never wanted that.
Oh.
That was
Uh-huh.
her
Uh-huh.
plan. That was her plan. But guess what?
Right.
Guess what? Although it was her idea, you know, it ended up being mine also, and I'm at peace with it because so many
Yes.
years later, I am actually a thought leader in the hospitality industry today.
Absolutely.
So tell
Yeah.
us, Grace, tell us, how
Yes.
do we go
Yes.
about knowing who we are?
Right, absolutely. And I love your introduction because you have led us into understanding who we are today has a lot to do with where we came from and how we were socialized and how we were conditioned. And so now, as adults, we begin to get into that space where we are asking that question, who are we? And so when we think about the subject of self-love, if I may go with in a way of introduction or even definition, for me, self-love equals to self-acceptance. And you are not going to accept anything that you do not know well about. Now, you mentioned about validation, seeking validation from outside. It's because we do not know who we are, because people tend to tell us who we are supposed to be. And a lot of us have mental dissonance or a lot of confusions in our heads because there is who we think we are, who people tell us we are, and who we want to be. And so the combination of that, there is a big clash in our mind. And sometimes now we struggle with identity crisis in various spaces of our lives. Now, I will tell you this. The subject of self-love is very, very close to my heart. I believe I was about 26, 27, when every one of us has that moment where you say, God spoke to me. All of us have that. And so I got into a space where I was feeling very low and I was feeling unappreciated. I didn't know what I was about. And I was a very successful girl from outside. I was in the church leading worship, Bible studies. I had a good job. People loved me at our job. But I had a question that one day God asked me, Grace, do you love yourself? And I thought to myself, what kind of a question is this? And I felt very sad because I couldn't answer the question. I evaded it and I said, Lord, what do you mean? Do I love myself? And that is when God spoke to me about the great commandment that says, you shall love the Lord your God. And the second one, you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so if you asked me if I loved my neighbor, I would tell you, absolutely. I was busy helping everybody. Yeah. But I was not helping myself. And so what happened from that conversation with God started my journey of self-discovery, self-acceptance, and eventually, today I can use the phrase self-love. As Christians, sometimes we feel like that is pride, and we shouldn't be using that. But that, what happened, I'll tell you what happened after that. I found myself going to the salon. I found myself actually enjoying to buy clothes for myself. Oh, wow. And a few weeks after that, a young man, we used to have a singing group in my church. And there we are, and he came over to me and he said, Grace, something is different about you. And I said, what? And he said, you look lighter, you are smiling more, you look happier, and you even look at peace. And I said, really? And so we had a conversation about that. But what had happened, there is a physical, taking care of my physical that happened, which is I went to the salon, I bought new clothes, and I smiled more. You know? So this idea of self-love, let me give a textbook definition of it, is a state of appreciation for oneself that grows from actions that support your physical, psychological, and spiritual growth.
Wow.
You hear that? Let me repeat it. A state of appreciation for yourself that grows from actions that support your physical, your psychological, and your spiritual growth. Very important. And
very
then
profound.
I add,
very, very profound. So
absolutely.
Profound. Because if those actions do not come out then in that way, you will then always be downcast. That young man would not have seen the difference at all. But because you put it into action, and I mean, your actions were amazing. They were very small. They did not look like it was much, but the impact that they had on your whole demeanor, somebody noticed. They couldn't put their finger on it, but they knew something had changed.
Wow. Absolutely.
And right now, before you go ahead, Grace, we've got Patty saying, she said, talk to us, because at times we neglect ourselves and also feel guilty when we love ourselves. Oh, Patty, you are talking.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. Okay, Grace, please go ahead.
Now listen to this. Listen to this. Having high regard for your own well-being and happiness. Have high regard. That means that you esteem yourself. We need to let go of the myth that if I seem to be happy with myself, I seem to be taking care of myself, that I am vain and I am prideful. That is a lie from the pit of hell, because when God created us, he said, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And then he said, while you are being formed in your mother's womb, I put you together piece by piece. And when you are done, I said, it is so good. It is very good. And so we need to understand that this temple that we have, this body that we have, we are custodians of it. And we need to have high regard for it so that we can be well. We can be well. And then you need to kind of identify your needs. That is important. Now let's talk about our needs for the physical body. This temple that we have. Number one, we need to eat healthy. So that means that you are going to do actions that are going to support your physical health. So we need to eat healthy. Number two, we need to take care of the body, where we are doing hygiene type of things. You know, wake up, take a shower, brush your teeth, do your hair, put on clothes, and all that. We need to do that. Now, did you know, Lucy, that the first sign of a person who is not in good mental health is they stop taking care of their physical well-being. They don't eat, they don't sleep well, and they don't shower, and they don't open the windows, they don't go outside. That is usually for us as counselors. When we begin to see that happening, then we know that person is not in good mental health, because you stop taking care of your needs. So it's important to identify that. Then the third thing, we are talking about the taking care of going to the doctor. Women, hello, we sometimes telling ourselves that that I don't want to go to the doctor. What if I find something is wrong? You see, so we avoid.
True.
Yeah.
I actually thought you were going to talk about self-medicating. And one of the reasons, Grace, that I would avoid going to see a doctor is that I already know what is wrong with me. So if I go there, they're going to start telling me other things. Then we're going to have a long discussion. And then they're going to start telling me to go for certain tests, which I know will come back negative. And I know myself. So when I start getting like now I've got a scratchy throat. When we're done, I'm going to walk down to the pharmacy and I'm going to buy something. And it is only until maybe 5, 6, 7 days, when it is persistence, then I will go and see a doctor. I thought that's what you were going to say, but it is true. At times it is because you don't want to be told things that you don't want to hear. Yeah, you're right. You're very right, Grace.
Absolutely.
So that is the third one. See a doctor.
Yes. See a doctor. When I used to live in the US, and one of the things that was required for my job is that every year I would do what they call a full physical. So I would go to the doctor and they would do all kinds of tests. And now my husband tells me after 40, we need to do it twice a year, just to kind of keep checking. And my husband is the kind of person who says, why wait for 5 days after self-medicating and you will end up at the doctor's office anyway? So once you start feeling it, go to the doctor, get to know what's wrong, and then fix it before. And you know what, Lucy? That is one of the things that we need to do, because it shows self-love, self-acceptance, and self-care.
Okay, that is my breakthrough right there. Yes. That is my breakthrough. I already have a take home. Lucy, you have to see a doctor. The first two, I totally do, and I agree with you. In fact, as a mother, when you realize that your child is not coming out of the room and you want to open up the door, you realize the curtains are all shut, you're opening up the window. Have you taken a shower? Have you brushed your teeth? Have you had your breakfast? You've been lounging this. So as a mother, it comes in as a second nature, and maybe we don't realize that this is a stopgap, or this is a coping mechanism to ensure that your child is okay, and that you know your child is okay. So even the dressing up, but then this one of the doctor, thank you so much. I am taking that one away. Patty has commented, and Patty says, At 50 is even worse. We are prone to everything and anything. I believe she's talking about the visit to the doctor where you say twice a year.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes. What would you say to
Yeah.
Patty? What would you say to Patty,
I,
Grace?
I would say, Patty, I am in that we are on fifth floor together. And if you follow me on Facebook, you see that I am posting stuff about what I'm eating most of the week. Why? Because I want to keep myself accountable, and Facebook will remind me in a year's time what I was doing at this time. But I will say that one of the things we need to do, and this is part of what Lucy you do, changing mindsets, is this mindset of what you don't know doesn't hurt you. And we need to be very careful, because we know people who have gotten sick, they go to the doctor and they are told you have this thing that could have been prevented if you had been doing your self-care. So we have talked about the fourth thing that we need to look at is
Yes.
physical exercise. Why
Yes.
is physical exercise important? It's important because it stretches your muscles. You don't want to have all that tension that sits on your neck. You can't sleep at night. You don't have to have, you don't want to have this tenseness in your body that you are always snappy, and so as we go through life on a daily basis, we have stressors, and stress that is not being taken care of, it packs itself on our muscles. And
Oh,
that is
that I can
why,
relate to. Yes.
yes, that is why this morning I did some stretching, and I can tell you I'm paying for it because I haven't done stretching in a while.
That is just so practical, Grace. That is just somebody said to me that when you get to the fifth floor, you
Yes,
must stretch. You
yes,
must stretch because in Kiswahili it is called the situation of hapanakule, because every
yes,
day something somewhere is hurting.
yes,
So you want to be able to stretch. And what is it? It is because all these stresses are
yes,
piling up on different parts of your body, and you need to
yes,
let it go. You just need to
yes,
stretch. And I'm loving that.
right,
So, number one was eating healthy. Number two was your
yes,
personal hygiene. Number three
yes,
is to see the doctor. Number four
yeah,
is physical exercise. Wow, we're on a
right,
roll. Uh-huh.
absolutely. Number five, enjoy
Yes.
sex.
Oh, wow. Enjoy sex. Okay.
Because that's physical, and
Yes.
sex is a way to reduce stress.
Yes.
So do what you need to do, especially if your body is relaxed and you are doing relaxation exercises. We can do meditations, we can do biking, you can do whatever it is that is you are capable of doing. And then we will talk about mindset, but we will talk about how even taking care of those thoughts about your sexual activities. It's so important. If you're married, when you deny your husband sex because you are mad or because whatever is going on, you are doing a disservice to yourself.
Yeah. Because
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 there is
because you have caught feelings.
uh,
We call it catching feelings. You have caught feelings.
yes. Yeah, so if you are a woman and you are married, please enjoy that physical exercise of having sex with your husband. There is a lot of, again, you are loving your body, you are taking care of your body, and it's very important to do that. So I think I have given everybody some practical things they can do,
Thank you.
and
I mean,
and physical exercise doesn't have to be you have to go to the gym, you have to do Zumba. If you're sitting at the toilet, I learned this from my nutrition coach, that if you're sitting on the toilet in the morning, when you get up, do 10 kind of up and down, and you have already gotten
hey, Grace,
five.
Grace, please. We will say in Kiswahili, tuheshimiane. If I start going up and down, at some point I will just land back on the toilet and never move. But I like that because
Yes,
you're already captive in that position. Use it
yes,
for exercise.
yes,
Thank you so much. Thank
yes,
you.
yes,
Wow, well,
and
those are great. Those are already great takeaways on body,
yes,
and I love the five of them.
absolutely.
Well, ladies,
Yes.
for those of you who are tuned in, I have had one breakthrough today about seeing the doctor. Share with us what your breakthrough is, because there are four others. I had a breakthrough with the doctor. What about you? Let's see if anybody has sampled anything. Patty, oh,
Yes.
Patty's on a roll today. Patty's on a roll. Patty says, Patty, oh, listen to this, Grace. Patty says, "Hey, Grace, can you get me a husband?" And then she comes on and says, she smiles and she says, "Lucy, do you have a brother?" Patty, I have two brothers. I have two brothers. And that one, Grace, you need to answer that question, whether you can get her a husband or not. But I think for her, we need her to walk into the space of mindset, because she's already
Yes.
now got the tools
Yes.
of loving herself. So
Yes.
she knows she
Yes.
prepares
Yes.
herself. In the tourism industry, we call it mise en place. Mise en place is
Yes.
you preparing, before you do something, all those things that you're putting together. Thank you so much on
Right.
just giving us the insight on who I am. And I can see Jane is there saying, very great tips. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Patty loves
Yes.
number 5. So let's move on to thought patterns. Clearly, Grace, you're coming back on another show, because 1 hour is not enough with you, and you have to accept to come
Right.
back. Yeah. So let's.
I'll be glad.
Oh, thank you. What are your thoughts on the thought patterns now? Let's talk about mindset, the thought patterns, and I'm being
Right.
specific because as a
Yes.
life coach, I talk about
Yes.
taking on the abundant mindset. That abundant or the
Yes.
abundance mindset. And when you speak
Yeah.
that, you must speak about the scarcity mindset and what it is.
Right.
And when I
Mm.
speak of that also, I talk about the locus of control. Because, and
Yes.
I use this example all the time to people that I am taking through group life coaching, because I do these
Yes.
sessions for a minimum of 3 women and maximum 5. And our conversations become so deep. And the example
Mm.
that I use is a typical Kenyan example. You will watch news and you will
Mm-hmm.
see a typical Kenyan individual, woman or man, saying, "Tunaomba serikali, tunaomba serikali." So for
Right.
them, it is assumed that without serikali,
Yes.
nothing can happen. They do
Yes.
not trust in their own ability to control a situation, and therefore locus of
Right.
control. If serikali does not help,
Mm-hmm.
then they blame serikali. They don't look at the
Yes.
small things that they can do to change their environment. And then they keep on
Right.
thinking of limiting themselves, victimizing their thoughts, and jumping
Yes.
into that train of scarcity mindset. So when I'm asking you what
Right.
are your thoughts on the mindset, I take you back to what we
Mm.
started off by saying, in understanding who we are, where we are coming
Mm.
from, the
Mm.
subconscious that helps us, that then builds
Yeah.
up to this day where I will always say, iyo iko na wenyewe. It is for us. Wao wako na
Yes.
pesa. They have the money. It
Uh-huh.
belongs to
Yeah.
them. So talk to us about mindset. If you
Yes.
can take us through how this can help us to love ourselves before we can
Right.
expect to be loved.
Absolutely. Now, let me say that mindset for me is when you think about things over and over again, and it becomes your way of interacting with yourself, with the world, and with the people around you. Now, this is what we know, that thought patterns, they are thoughts that you repeat to yourself, and over time it becomes the habit. So you can think of a pattern as a habit, something that you have repeated over and over again. Now,
Mm.
the way that we form this is an event happens, and then you have a thought about the event, and then you have an emotion that is triggered by the thought, and then you have a behavior that is triggered by the emotion. When we repeat those things, then it becomes our habit, and eventually that's what becomes our temperament, and our personality, and how we relate with the world around us. So when we think about thinking patterns, again, I want to be very, very practical for us, is for you to understand there are various ways that you interpret what happens into the world. You will believe me when I say an event will happen and two people will deal with it completely different ways. And it has something to do their conditioning, their socialization, as well as their personality. Now, I always give the example of these two guys who are jilted by their lovers, and they both experience the same pain. One of them looked at the situation and he said, life is hopeless. I cannot live without her. He went to the bridge, San Francisco Bridge, and he threw himself and he died. The other guy said the same thing, that, oh, she has left me. How will I live life? I can't survive without her. He started writing the blues. And once he wrote the blues, he made $1 million. So it is all about how you interpret the situation, because our thought patterns then will kind of cause us to self-sabotage. So it is very important for self-love to happen. You've got to figure out what are your narratives about yourself. When you are sitting there and thinking about yourself, what do you say to yourself? There is a question that I always say when I ask that question, what do you say about yourself? I remember Jesus asking the disciples, what do people say? Who do people say I am? And then they say, and then Jesus asked them, but what do you say I am? And I am going to question everybody who says that people tell me, people think about me, or they said about me, and I'm going to say to you, but what do you say about you? Because if you have a different message from what they say, you will negate it. You are not going to pay attention to it. You are going to be okay about what people say about you. Remember what I said, that self-love is self-acceptance. And you are not going to be able to accept what you do not know. So step number 1, get to know you. And I'm going to give you a few tips on how you can bring out your subconscious, the thoughts that you think about yourself. I am going to ask each one of us, you get a notebook and you start writing, and you write 3 columns. Number 1, who do I think I am? Number 2, how do I feel about myself? And number 3, what do others say about me? Now, the others can be your parents, your siblings, your friends, God, anybody else who is outside of you. What do they say? Make those 3 columns and then look at those messages and see if they run across all the 3 columns. So for instance, who do you think?
Grace, yes. May I interrupt, Grace? You've
yes.
gone quite fast for us. You asked us to take a piece of paper and pen and write out 3 columns. In the first column, you'd like us to write down, who do I think I am? That's the first column. Yes. The second column is, how do I feel about myself?
Yes.
The third column is, what do others say about me? Am I correct?
You are very correct.
All right. So ladies, I hope you have written down or drawn those 3 columns, because this is a tool Grace is sharing with us. And while you're writing that out, may I just acknowledge we've got Rachel Masharia. Rachel says, finally, I am here. All ears. Karibu sana, Rachel. Karibu. And then there's Betty Karanja. Betty, good to see you. Good to see you. Loving this. We are talking about self-love, and you've actually missed out the lovely introduction of Grace explaining to us about self-love. And for me, one of the takeaways was when she asked, do you love yourself? And she actually draws a correlation from the Bible, the 2 main commandments of love, and one of them being love your neighbor as you love yourself. So do you love yourself? And she told us that self-love, one of the things is your self-discovery or your self-acceptance. I loved that. She went ahead to give us 5 tips. 5 tips. And the first tip about self-love, I loved them. The first one is eating healthy. The next one is hygiene. The third one is see a doctor. See a doctor. That was my aha moment. Self-medication out of the window, Lucy. Number 4 is physical exercise. And number 4 is enjoy your sex with your spouse. Amazing takeaways. So now we are moving on to our mindset. And she has actually just asked us to do a small exercise, and that's when you've joined us. The first one is write a column. And in the first column, who do I think I am? Second column, how do I feel about myself? And the third column, what do others say about me? Sorry, Grace, I just needed to do that so that the 2 ladies who have joined us are in line with us. So please go ahead. Sorry for that interruption.
No problem, no problem. So, once you have done that, I also want to ask you, as you are thinking about what others have said or say about you, the issue of your parents will come up. So you will need to, if you feel some pain, some bitterness, you still have unanswered questions, what we call unfinished business, then I am asking you to do a second exercise. And that second exercise, write a letter to them. Don't give it to them. This is for you. Just do a process of exploring your unfinished business with your mom, with your dad, with your siblings, or even boyfriends, or even other people that really affected your sense of self. And so if you can be able to identify what those things are, and I will encourage you, start letter writing to these people where you are expressing the things that you could not express then. So allow your subconscious to release that information so that you can now begin to identify, who am I really? Who is me authentically? So that the narratives that you have in your mind, you can differentiate what was told to you and what is you. So that now if you are still telling yourself, oh, I can't do this, oh, I can't do that, what about that, what about this, then you can say, up to here, that's gone. Because I remember my mother used to do that. I remember there was a teacher who told me, wewe hata ukifanya hiyo haiwezi kuwa. You know, there were people who actually told you can't. And so we want to say that your thought patterns, you need to explore them, and you can use letter writing. You can do that. Another letter you can write is to yourself. How do you feel about yourself? What are your accomplishments and what are your regrets? You need to kind of look at things that you wish you had done differently, so you can address the subject of shame and guilt, and begin to process that. Now, some of you listening to us, what will happen is that you will be so emotionally drained by that, and that's the sign that you need to get some counseling, get some personal counseling. I usually say do 4 sessions of cognitive behavioral therapy, because the counselor can help you to process and then identify what you need to unlearn and what you need to learn. And I want to say here very quickly that a lot of us don't realize whatever it is you experience as a child, that is your subconscious. It never goes anywhere. So it is important to do that and process that. And I think, with your permission, Lucy, at the end, I can share my YouTube channel where I talk about inner child healing and inner child traumas. So I have given you another tip where you write a letter to yourself, and of course you can write letters to people who changed your life in a negative way. And even you want to mix it up, there are people who changed your life in a positive way. Write a letter of gratitude to them as well. because it is going to help you balance out. Lucy, you know, you are in the mindset business, you know that negative thinking is very automatic. Positive thinking is what we have to be intentional about. For some reason, as human beings, we tend to go into our, what we call our basic, that survival mode. And when you are in survival mode, you cannot have healthy relationships with yourself or with others. Now, there is a third letter that we need to write, and it's a letter to God. This is so important because our self-love is rooted in who God made us to be. God is love, and we are told that we are made in his image. And so for us to love ourselves, we've got to do business with God as well. Because some of us, we blame God for the things that we have gone through, and so we can't experience his love. We cannot experience that we are people of worth, and that we are people who are capable, and we have everything that we need. Obviously, I use a lot of scriptures because I grew up memorizing scripture. And you see, positive thinking that we use in our psychological teaching of others on how to change mindsets. When you think about positive thinking, it is positive thinking about the truths of life. So whether it is biblical, whether it comes from wherever it comes from, it's truth. Take it. It's positive. It's going to make you be well. And so when I think about positive thinking, I always think about the scriptures because that's what is in my subconscious.
I'm
And
loving
so
that.
what
I'm really loving that because you're giving us practical tips. And I can see Charity. Thank you so much for tuning in, Charity. Charity says, powerful and practical. The
yes,
subconscious mind is extremely powerful. Well
yes,
done, Lucy, for bringing such an amazing speaker. Thank you, Charity. Patty says that, wow, it is powerful. And I'm loving these tips that you've given. And
yes,
again, I have another aha moment. Never has it
yes,
happened on the show that I am able to get such aha moments one after the other. Usually it
yeah,
is after I go and I listen to the recording and I write something about it, is when I start getting the subtle aha moments that make a shift for me in my life. But today you're just slapping me with them, Grace. And the one that I really love is the letter to myself. I never
yes,
ever thought to write a letter to myself, because even as you're saying
yes.
it to me, I've got these feelings, these emotions coming up now because
Mm,
I am a Catholic by faith. So my
yes,
belief system tells me that I go for penance. I go to seek penance, and
yes. Mm,
and I remember very clearly, Grace, because this is what you're bringing out in me now. I remember very clearly 3 years ago, me going
mm,
into the church and seeking to forgive
mm.
myself. Myself.
Yes,
It was so
yes.
powerful, that aha moment. But I thought that, since I'm a person of introspection, it only happens to people like me. All those extroverts out there would not be doing it. But today you're giving it as a tool. And
Yes.
perhaps that time I did not take it seriously. And you know what, Grace? I am going
Mm,
to write a letter to myself because I think it's
right.
time that I write this letter to
Yeah.
myself, and I'm loving it. So we've got
Mm,
three takeaways there for us to be able to use letter writing to express our thought patterns. I love that.
mm,
And the thought
mm.
patterns are actually formed from those thoughts, the emotions, and then we are forming a habit. I'm even
Yes.
loving that more. There's something
Mm,
else here that I put a star on, and that is negative thinking is automatic. And
yes.
if I just take about 30 seconds to say this,
Mm,
in my life coaching sessions, I usually
mm,
ask one question, you
mm,
know, what is working in your life?
mm-hmm.
And you can see people don't know what answer to give. The minute I say, and what is not working in your life? Whoa, there's a whole list.
Right.
There's a whole list. So I keep
Mm,
on saying that's the negativity going in, because there's so many things working in your life. And when I start saying one thing another, then it begins to build up. So I
yes.
agree with you. our negative thinking is very automatic. We have to
Yes.
be now not only intentional
Yes.
in us thinking otherwise. We've got to
Mm.
make it a lifestyle. And
Yes.
I'm just seeing, whoa, I'm seeing quite a few comments here. Grace, you're going to have to come back because we're already coming to the end of our show now. And what is,
Right. I know.
I, I love that bit of writing a letter to God because most of the time we are complaining as opposed to being grateful. Yes, Patty. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
love that one of writing to God. I mean,
Yes.
what thoughts do you have on that one, Grace?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because if we, what happens, and I guess we can move into the spiritual, ourselves as spiritual beings, right? We can just
Okay, yeah, so
slide
that is
in
our,
there.
our belief system now, eh?
Yeah, our belief system, because
Mhm.
all of us who are in Kenya, we have been, most of us have been brought up under the belief system of the Christian faith. And if it's
Mhm.
not Christian faith, is Islam or other faiths that are here in our country. So what we want to do, because each one of us has a spiritual socialization and conditioning, get to know your God, because your God is the one who decided you be here on earth. If that is your anchor, that is the anchor of your belief system. And once you are able to know who God is and who he stands for and what he says about himself and about us, then you can begin now to work on your spiritual system. So I'm going to say this, that the letter to God, it needs to be what you are thankful for and what you are disappointed about him, and the things that you think you did wrong. So your confession. And then number 4, where you do what Lucy you have just said, where you are doing self forgiveness because God has already forgiven you. And there is a scripture in Ephesians chapter 4 that says, just as God has forgiven us in Christ, then we should be tender-hearted and forgiving of others. We are not going to forgive others if we can't offer that forgiveness to ourselves. And that
Self.
is why we will be called hypocrites, because we are so negative about others. And Lucy, you know what we say, we project to other people what is going on within us. So if
True.
I don't like your eyes, my eyes, I will see everybody's eyes in a negative way, or I compare myself with others. You see, because so if in you there is too much negativity, that's what is gonna come out, and it will go to others. So it's important for us to do our spiritual work, where we are actually having conversations with God. And I'm going to say here very quickly, there is something I learned when I was 20 years old. And I used to struggle a lot with having my time where I am in my closet praying and reading the word and all that. That time that we used to call it quiet time. And I would find I don't have time or the concentration. So
Yes.
I learned about what they called that time practicing the presence of God. And so when I was in the matatu going to college, I would practice the presence of God in my life. So when I'm sitting there, I have my Bible, I read my verse, and all the way to town, I am having conversation in my mind with God. And you
Very
know what
intentional.
that does?
Very
It
intentional.
Yes, what it does, number 1, it causes your mind to focus on God. And there is no way you are going to focus on God and not come out with an aha moment. So it is either going to be that you feel so mad at him, or you feel so in love with him. You see? So there is either peace, or there is going to be a lot of conviction that you need to do something. And that is why doing the letter to God is going to be very important. So allow yourself to bring out the real feelings you have about God. You have this mask that you put on, you go to church, you go for confession, and it's a ritual. But
Yes.
is it a spiritual exercise? There is a
It's
difference between,
autopilot.
yes,
Autopilot, like you were saying. It's
yes,
autopilot. Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So it is very important. Now let me say also with the belief system, again, as you are writing these letters, there will be aha moments about what you believe. You need to ask yourself, where does this belief come from? And
Yes.
your belief system comes from our limitations. Let me give everybody mine. Me, I know mine very well. It's about money. And you know why? Because I grew up hearing pesa hakuna, mutire besha, hakuna pesa. You ask for something and your dad tells you there is no money, and you can see there is no money. So this is how I lived. I started working when I was 20, 21, and I worked until I was 29. I had never opened a bank account. Why? Because I believed only the rich people can open bank accounts. You see? So you need to ask yourself, even today, I'm 51 and I still struggle with saving, with investing, with you ask me, you come to me and you say something to me about a service, the first question I ask you, how much is it? So that is what determines whether I'm going to take the service or not. I know where that comes from. In fact,
Conditioning
yes,
from when you were young. Yes.
yes, and in fact, I have a therapist, and I told her this is my goal. We need to clear my money blocks. You need
Yes.
to help me figure
To,
out
un-
why
to
I think
unlearn.
the way I do.
You have to unlearn so that you can learn. You have to change your narrative. Wow,
Yes,
Grace, we have come to the end. And
I know.
I know you've got so much more. I would like to extend an invitation to you here now, live on this
Yes,
show, because I don't want you to rush through it. You are
yes.
teaching us so much, sharing straight from your heart,
Mhm.
and time right now is against us. I
Yeah,
just
I can see that.
give you an invitation to join us, please. If not the end of February, then to
Yes,
join us in March. If
you're
you will
right.
allow me to call you, and you will
Yes,
pick up from there and add
yes,
other things that we would benefit from. And thank you so much for accepting.
absolutely. No
I am
problem.
I'm seeing here that Charity talks about, this reminds me of Bob Proctor's book, which is Think and Grow Rich. This must be about the mindset, definitely.
Mhm.
Oh, Sarafina, nice to see you, Sarafina. Sarafina, you say, first step to peace of mind is self-forgiveness. Oh, I totally agree. Wow. And you say,
Yes,
great information. Thank you, LMC. You're most welcome. You go ahead to say beliefs and limitations. Let me tell you, ladies,
yes,
beliefs and limitations are real. They exist. And there's
yes,
Grace giving you a perfect example. And she has been
yes,
working now for 13 years for herself. And she's still going to
yes,
a counselor, willing to unlearn so that she can learn. These
yes.
things are.
Mhm.
Uh, Jane says, time has been so short. Yes, yes. Patty
I
says,
know.
Grace, thank you. Grace, thank you.
You're
Oh, Rose
welcome. You're
Jerry.
welcome.
Rose Jerry is here. Hi, Rose. Rose says, time was too short. Now you hear Grace. I'm not the one who's telling people to say this. It is how engaging this thing was. Uh,
Right.
Jane says, yes, she needs to come
Yes.
back twice or thrice. Okay, Jane. Jane, we will get her back once and then we will see, bring her back again. Anne Mburu, Anne Mburu
Right.
actually, Anne Mburu tunes in all the way from Delhi, India. It's good to see you here, Anne. You say a
Yes.
brilliant session. Thank you so much, Lucy and Grace. You are most welcome. Patty
Mm.
says, Lucy, we are grateful for this session. And I say, Karibu Sana. It is by the grace of God and grace, and it is grace and grace of God.
Right.
Rachel, you say, gracious Grace, full of grace and wisdom. I learned so much from her. I'm
Mm.
never full of her wisdom. Oh, that is powerful. Wow. Okay, so
Mm.
Grace, you need to share your
Yes.
Facebook and your YouTube. However,
Yes.
how I recommend us to do this is after our session, if you could go onto Facebook, onto this particular discussion, and drop your link. Drop your link for
Yes.
your YouTube, drop your link for your Facebook, drop your contacts, your IG. Let us be able to get
Yes.
in touch with you. Kavi
Right.
says, great depth, grace. All right. What we usually do at the end of the show, and we've got 2 minutes to go, is you give us some
Yes.
takeaways. I know you've given us a lot of takeaways. Can you give us three,
Right.
just three that we
Yes.
can run with,
Ab-
please?
Absolutely. And I want to say this: you are worthy of love and acceptance. You need to put that on a sticky note on your window everywhere.
Yes.
Remind yourself that every day. And then, regardless of what you experienced, you are safe and secure. No more fear. No
Yes.
more walking around thinking something is going to happen and I will not be able to overcome. So, and then the third one is that you are capable and competent. You can be and you can do anything you put your mind to it. It is in the word of God. It is not just a pep talk. He says that he has given us everything we need for life and godliness. And then he says what? I alone know the plans I have for you, plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. And I want people to go and read Jeremiah 29 in context, the whole one, so you can
Yes.
understand the importance and impact of that scripture right there. It's really that mindset of self-limitation. God bless you. I love you all. This has been wonderful, Lucy.
You. Thank you so much, Grace. It's been so beautiful having you here. I love that I am capable and competent
Yes,
to thrive,
yes,
because what we have gone through during this COVID has tested our very beings. It has even tested our faiths. And for you
yes,
to be able to come and just remind us that we are capable and competent, we are
yes.
competent to thrive. So there you have it, ladies. Eh?
Amen.
So no more body shaming. The body that you have,
Yes.
God gave it to you.
Mm-hmm.
No more
Yes,
negative self-talk. We've got to
yes,
unlearn it and learn new
yes,
speaking, positive self-talk.
yes.
We should not have shame and guilt party. Let us not be
Mm,
guilty of these things that we
mm.
have, talent, our
Yes,
bodies, the things that we have. Do not reject
yes,
yourself. In fact, the one that I say is do not bully yourself.
yes,
Be kind
yes.
to yourself. Love
Right.
yourself. Instead,
Yes.
as Grace tells us, we need to choose to live by design. And she has given us
Design.
enough points that we can use, ladies. So thank you so much for sharing these great wake up points with us, and your takeaways are so relatable, so relatable. Serafina says that she has just clapped out so loud. Thank you, Sarah. So we need to be our own champions, ladies. And I thank
Yes.
Grace one more time, and I will be calling you, Grace, when we can plan our next session. So thank you so much for your time, and God bless you, ladies. The month of love continues, and next week
Yes.
we will be talking about loss of love. Loss of love, and you don't want to miss out on this one. Remember to like our page so that you can receive regular updates of these scheduled talks. Let us help build one another, ladies. Let us help one another. You have a gift, therefore come and share it. Let those talents be seen. Do not hide them. So until we meet again
Mhm.
next week on Tuesday, God willing, please be kind to yourselves. Bye bye.
Amen.